Years of remaining silent, Hillary Clinton has finally taken a position on the controversial Keystone Pipeline. Here is the former First Lady explaining why it took her so long to reject a project that Republicans claim will create thousands of good-paying jobs.
I think it is imperative that we look at the Keystone Pipeline as what I believe it is, a distraction from the important work we have to do to combat climate change, and unfortunately, from my perspective, one that interferes with our ability to move forward to deal with all the other issues. Therefore, I oppose it.
Joining me now is former energy advisor to President Bush, and the Rapidan Group founder and president, Bob McNally. Bob, good to see you. Thanks
so much for
joining us.
Thank you very much.
Is Keystone a distraction?
It is really. Keystone's water under the bridge. We're going to produce that oil in Canada. The problem for Canada and those oil sands is the low price of crude oil. But Canada has the third largest supply of oil. Oil is the lifeblood of modern civilization. That oil is going to come out. Now it's probably going to go west to Asia, or it's going to come out east through the Maritimes. Some of it's going to come down through a pipeline the president approved, the Alberta Clipper, President Obama, early in his administration. We started politicizing energy infrastructure. That's unfortunate, but that is not going to stop the consumption of oil in this country and in the world. What will do it again, what will delay it, is the low price of crude oil. That's what Canada has to worry about.
Okay, but I mean, she's basically saying that the Keystone Pipeline is a distraction. I mean, I'm asking you, you said it is a distraction. I don't understand that.
Well, look, the Keystone Pipeline is something the environmentalists took hostage when they didn't get cap and trade in 2010. When President Obama comes in, his two priorities are national health care and green energy or cap and trade. He went for national health care, lost the Congress, and then couldn't get cap and trade. And with 2010, Republican Congress wasn't going to get it. So they took Keystone hostage and said, we won't give it back to you until you give us cap and trade or a price on carbon. I think they're going to regret that, and I think some in the environmental community already regret it, because while they have taken Keystone hostage, the fracking revolution has gone national and wild.
Right.
So I think they're going to look back.
It's garbage that she should say it's a distraction from tackling climate change, because that oil will then be, as you said, shipped to Asia potentially, which is harder on the environment. They have less environmentally friendly refining practices. So it's just hooey that she would say that.
We have a president right now who doesn't understand how to create jobs, and the Democrats are about to nominate someone who equally doesn't understand how we create jobs and get this economy moving. And if Republicans are smart, we will keep this election in 2016 about how we actually create jobs, and it's powered, excuse the pun, it's powered by our energy policy, and she doesn't get it.
I mean, you would think that, you know, traveling or transporting oil is safer in a pipeline rather than on rail cars. I mean, I just think that's sort of obvious.
It's a two-way street too, right? It's not just about sending Canadian oil to the United States. It's also mixing it with the light condensate crude oil that we have in South Texas and sending it the other way around. So it is a proposition that would create jobs, and that's why a lot of the unions are actually in support of that. But that's not what's being debated, right?
No,
that's right. And let's remember, it was the State Department under President Obama, Secretary Clinton and Secretary Kerry, that said the Keystone Pipeline is environmentally beneficial. They basically approved it. And she said in 2010 she was leaning towards approving it. So I think what we have here today is pure politics.
It was her State Department that said this is actually environmentally safe. Let me switch gears for a second, Bob, and get your take on what's going on in the energy business. How worried are you about some of these shale companies, which you correctly identify as this is sort of a great growth story, but are you worried that some of those shale guys and gals who are over leveraged have to go bankrupt when they face new credit facilities?
I am worried about that, because we are on a global roller coaster when it comes to oil prices. I call it Space Mountain oil prices. We're going to learn to miss OPEC, okay? OPEC has basically abdicated its role as the market balancer for the last 10 years. As a result, we're going to see much bigger swings in prices up and down. Now we're oversupplied, so we're going down. And, you know, even though the operating costs of these shale oil companies is coming down to the $10, $15 a barrel, to reinvest, to get capital, they still need, you know, $40, $50, $60. Unfortunately, the way we count the barrels, I see prices going down further. We have a market share war going on in OPEC. This is going to put stress on shale oil producers. Next Next month, they have to face their banks and renegotiate the terms of their borrowing. The bigger ones are going to announce their CapEx decisions by early next year. It's not going to be pretty, especially if we lurch down further in prices.
And does that impact the broader employment story in the country?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the shale oil and energy sector has been the greatest direct and indirect job creator. And as this thing starts to die, and I think it's going to be a real big concern. Absolutely.
Bob, good to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Bob McNally there on energy.